Hey, everybody, welcome to Tuesdays with Kelli and Dan on Talking Pools Podcast Network. Well, it definitely has been an interesting week for a lot of people, but let's first start with thanking IPSA for being a sponsor of our show. Very excited to have you. Um, we'll talk more about what they do and who they're for and everything soon, but let's kind of move on. I guess the big topic today has been the hurricane in Florida.
Yeah, even though our listeners aren't going to hear this until after the hurricane's over, I'm sure the effects of the hurricane are still going to be being dealt with when they do. But today we're recording this the day the hurricane uh, made landfall in Florida, and we're certainly have all of our thoughts and well wishes to everyone down there. But all of our pool industry friends that are going to have a lot of work ahead of them and their personal lives as well as their professional lives and bailing out of Hurricane Ian, who I think when it hit shore, it was what, category 4? 150 some miles an hour, 150-mile-an-hour winds.
Yeah, the pictures and the videos I've seen are just crazy.
There's it always amazes me how the tracking of this stuff. I would love to know the inner workings of how they try to predict where these things are going to go and what the intensity is going to be and all that kind of stuff. But my wife and my daughter went down to Florida for a quick girls trip to Disney World. They flew out Saturday morning, and originally they were supposed to fly back this afternoon, like a 3 or 4 o'clock Eastern time flight. And so I'm sitting here watching the hurricane tracker while they're going to the Halloween haunted houses at Universal Studios and the
They're having the
Halloween.
time of their
Yeah,
life while
yeah,
you're
right.
back home worrying like, oh
Yeah,
my God, is my family ever going to get
yeah,
home?
yeah, exactly. And so Sunday morning, I'm looking at things. I'm going, oh, geez, 4 o'clock. That's real iffy by afternoon today. So I switched their flight to 9 o'clock in the morning. That was the earliest direct flight I could get them on. And then yesterday morning, I actually am fortunate. We've got a newcomer to all seasons who is a lifelong Floridian. Sorry, I said that wrong. Um, and as you see, he comes in the building today. He's looking at his phone and he's looking at the hurricane information. I talked to him a bit, and I said, I've been watching for when landfall and this and that. And he said, oh, landfall, you got to get them out of there well before that because the winds precede, uh, when the hurricane truly hits by, sometimes 12 or 24 hours from when you end up with the hurricane really being on land. So he directed me to a couple of websites, and I was watching it anyway. I said, oh, geez. The prediction was that tropical storm winds would be in Orlando area as early as 8 a.m. today,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
to potentially as late as 8 p.m. today as to when it would cross into Orlando. So a 9 o'clock flight was a little iffy. So anyway, moved it up to a 7 o'clock flight. And as things go, I think that was one of the last flights that made it out of Orlando before Orlando shut the airport down, along with, the airports all through the rest of the state. Southern airports had been shut down earlier. So anyway, they made it home. I picked them up at the airport around noon today, and glad to have them back. And
Oh, I bet they had the time of their life while you were stressing out. So,
yeah, they did, and it was a unique thing for them too to see the preparedness that goes into everything down there. The hotel this morning when they left it, what was it, like 4 o'clock this morning or something? I think they left to go to the airport. They were sandbagging the
oh, wow.
doors and everything around the hotel, and they preparedness is that's it's a huge thing, right? So
Yeah.
everybody that, and it's a little bit late for this particular incident down in Florida, but being prepared for, pool owners being prepared. What do you do before? What do you do during? What do you do after? That kind of stuff. There's so much bad information that floats around out there. I heard someone talking today, social media, one of the Facebook groups, a consumer-facing group, if you will, saying, "Oh, my insurance agent told me I need to drain my pool, and not just a little bit. They needed to empty their pool.
Oh, good God.
And if they didn't do that and they had flood damage, that the insurance wouldn't cover the flood damage, even though they had flood insurance, because they didn't empty their pool."
I would be afraid of the pool popping out
Yeah, absolutely. It's
because the water table would be so high during a hurricane, and
emptying a pool is the last thing that anyone should do during not only a hurricane, but just any kind of a heavy rainfall period. In our Chicago market, Florida obviously is primarily going to be gunite pools. I know Texas is primarily gunite pools. The Midwest here, we've got everything. We've got fiberglass, we've got vinyl lined, we've got gunite, and any one of them, even though we don't get hurricanes here, we get torrential downpours that can be detrimental to any one of the three major types of structures. So, our rule for everyone is you don't drain even an inch of water out of a pool during a heavy rain. And for many days after the heavy rain, until those water tables get a chance to subside, you just don't do it. Vinyl lined pools, the liners will float from groundwater. Fiberglass pools, obviously, concrete pools, they both can pop out of the ground or have heave type of structural damage that can be catastrophic. And there's this conception that people have that if the water in my pool gets up to the deck, that everything is going to flood. And I don't know what the mindset is with that. I don't get it.
Well, I don't know if it's code where you are, but it's code here in California that we put a spigot on the pool equipment. That way you can drain some of the water out of the pool if necessary. And you just, attach a garden hose to it, open it up, take the hose where you want it to go, and you turn the equipment on and it drains it for you. Obviously, it's only going to do a couple inches. Can't drain the whole thing, but yeah, by code, we have to have those. Now, where I live, we are surrounded by rivers. And, normal years, well, I don't know if you call it normal anymore, about 10, 20 years ago, when we would have rain, yeah, you wouldn't be draining pools. If you live on the levee here, you do not drain that pool completely. The water table's too high. So you literally have to do partial drains until you get to what your goal was. One trick my dad taught me, because my parents used to have a store and really concentrate their business in one particular area that's very concentrated in pools, but is also surrounded by a river with levees, is if you are unsure of the water table, dig a hole in the customer's yard. And if you see, even if it's just 1 foot and you see water, do not drain it.
Yeah, that's a really good rule. And certainly throughout the country, throughout the world, the soil conditions are going to vary. When we look at any of the conventional construction done with pools, there's always backfilling that's done. The exception of gunite pools, not that there isn't backfilling, but a fiberglass pool, typically you're dealing with an overdig of about a foot all the way around before that shell is put in. There's a stone base put underneath it, and then you're backfilling with stone as you're filling internally, and that 1 foot overdig all the way around is all stone coming up. Well, in soil conditions where there's a lot of clay, which the Midwest has a ton of it. I know, every part of the country has the potential of having clay soil. Clay doesn't drain. So you build a pool, you backfill it with stone. There's stone underneath the decking if you're doing, paver brick or flagstone in a dry set kind of a thing. You in our climate, we have 8 to 10 inch stone bases underneath the paver brick when it's done. Even if it's concrete, there's 3 to 4 inches of stone underneath it. So as rain falls, that stone underneath the deck becomes a pathway that water just runs under the deck into the stone backfill behind the pool structure. And it just sits there for a long, long time before it eventually dissipates through the soil, which in many cases is many days later. So if you can envision taking a larger bowl, putting a smaller bowl inside of it, and filling the larger bowl with water, how that smaller bowl is going to float. That's what we've got with almost all types of pool construction because of the stone backfill behind the pool. And the water conditions in the yard, in the street, in the ditch, in the sewer may not be exactly reflective of what's going on under the pool, because that stone acts as a big retention bed for that water. And it doesn't matter how much volume of water is under the pool, it's the height of the water. And if that water is above the water level in the pool, even if it's only 6 inches wide in the ground around it, it's going to have hydrostatic pressure that can cause movement on the pool inside. So, that's where, like I said, we tell everyone, if you don't want to drain even fractions of inches, just wait. And everybody has a reason as to why. People with liner pools say, well, if it gets above where the liner goes in the track, then my liner's going to float. No, it's not. That's really an old wives' tale kind of a thing. The water pressure inside the liner is going to push that liner against the pool, preventing anything from the pool to be able to leak over the bead and down and behind it. It's a physics thing that it can't happen. When the water gets so high, if the water in the ground is very high and to the point that it's higher, then that groundwater will cause the liner to float. But it's not because the pool was full above the bead that the liner floated. It's because the ground was full above the bead that the liner floated.
Kelli and Dan will be right back after these messages.
Have you heard there is a group of pool service professionals nationwide that are here to help grow and protect your business? The Independent Pool and Spa Service Association, known as IPSA, is here to help you. By joining the largest trade organization created by and for pool and spa service techs, you gain access to industry networking opportunities, exclusive educational offerings, IPSA's Tech for Tech route coverage, and more. So be independent, supported, and part of a professional community. Go to ipssa.com to learn how to be a member of IPSA today.
Anyway, like I said, lots of people who have just bad ideas in terms of why they should drain a pool in the middle of a hurricane.
So I was watching TikTok yesterday. Yes, it's my guilty vice, I guess it's called. But there was a lady that posted, and I do think she was joking about it, but she was like, if you are from Florida, then you know the best way to prepare for a hurricane is to throw all your yard furniture into the pool so it stays safe and nice and nothing will happen to it.
Great.
And the pool person in me looking at that was just like, this is the worst idea I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, you know what's I don't get that. I really don't.
Well, think about it. Okay, maybe it stays together while it's in there, but when you get it out, you're going to scratch the plaster or the vinyl or whatever type of pool you have. You're going to damage it as you're pulling this out.
Yeah.
If it's made out of metal, it's going to oxidize and make staining on the surface. What else could you think of that this could be like the worst idea ever?
Yeah, right. I've seen in torrential floods cars being swept down the street in floodwaters, right?
Yeah.
Being washed away. Maybe we should park our cars in the pool too.
That, I guess that's the best way to protect our vehicles, right?
Yeah. It's, I don't know.
Who cares about the gasoline or the transmission or the interior.
Yeah. You know what? Natural selection. Maybe those people will actually drive the car in the pool and they'll feel they're safer in the pool in the car, and then no one will worry about putting stuff in their pools anymore because that gene will be killed off in the generations to come. I don't know.
Now, one thing I think that would be great to do in preparation for a hurricane or any really like big natural disaster where damage can be done would be just turn the power off to the equipment altogether.
Yeah, I absolutely. You know, especially you're dealing with floodwaters. I mean, to me, we're already seeing pictures today of areas of Florida with, feet of water in people's living rooms and such. As much as you hate to get to a point where you would have to do it, if that were me, I'd be going to my main circuit panel in the house and killing everything possible to, who wants to be dealing with electricity and water? So killing the equipment from the safety standpoint of the electrical that might be in that foot and a half of water you're wading through in the backyard, I think is important. And I know the equipment's supposed to be on GFIs and blah, blah, blah. And all of us have seen stuff that isn't done the way it's supposed to be done, right? But also from the standpoint of protecting the equipment that, do you really want your pump running if it's under a foot of water?
No.
I'd rather, and again, the GFI should trip, it should never run, but we've seen
Who knows?
things. So
maybe somebody wants their beautiful lights to be illuminating their whole entire yard so they could see if alligators or something are coming to attack.
yeah, if the pool light is all you got and, your rain gauge that's sitting out next to the pool, you need to illuminate that with your pool light to see exactly how much rain that hurricane's dumping in the yard. Maybe it is more important than we're giving credit to. I don't know.
I guess on a chemical standpoint, I did see this online and it makes complete sense to me, shocking the pool beforehand. And like you had mentioned, shock it afterwards because there's going to be all kinds of elements and things that got in there, and to try to avoid a bigger health hazard when having to clean up later might be beneficial.
Yeah, if the pool is under, the backyard is under 2 foot of water, there's not a whole lot you're going to do that's going to help. But for a lot of areas that aren't going to see that kind of stuff, whether it's a hurricane or just, heavy rainfalls or whatnot, that preventative maintenance, right? The prevention aspect of stuff by shocking the pool, and by shocking, I'm saying we're elevating the free chlorine in excess of 10 parts per million, if not in excess of 15 parts per million, in preparation for all the contamination that's going to be introduced to try to get ahead of the game. So you're not, potentially not just playing catch up through the days afterwards as you're trying to get everything back in order. Yeah, I think that's a great prepared, like sandbagging the doors to the hotel. You maybe sandbag your doors first and then go out and shock your pool.
Now, obviously, us not being from Florida, we're not going to know all of the preparation that's necessary, but I think these are some good things to be telling homeowners. It's kind of like, when Texas had their freeze, telling your customers, turn your equipment off, drain everything is probably the best idea you could have done. And this one, turn your power off, keep your furniture in the garage.
Right.
And if you can, shock. Obviously, shocking is going to be the last thing. Do everything else to make sure you're safe.
Yeah, everything else. And if when the eye of the hurricane is over your house, run out and brush the pool. Sweep all that dirt down to the main drain. So when you do eventually turn it back on, when the eye is over, as I understand it, everything's kind of calm, right? So
is it?
That's a time you can go out and, straighten the furniture back up and pour yourself a stiff drink and brush the pool. Maybe, I don't know. I'll leave that to the Floridians to decide if they're going to go out in the eye of the hurricane. I guess don't follow my stupid guideline there. That may get you in trouble. I'm not sure.
Well, good luck to everyone in the future busyness, because I'd assume for pool professionals, it's going to be super busy trying to get their stuff together and then going and fixing other people's things.
Yeah, for sure. You know, when Texas froze, you brought that up. It was interesting, only because of the time of the year. That was, if I remember right, it was February. So
Hmm.
there were a lot of parts of the country that our industry was not doing a whole lot because of the time of year. And it was interesting to me to see how those pool people in the other parts of the country went down to Texas, many of them, to help out to get pools up and running and make repairs and try and help the industry and our brothers and sisters in Texas get things done. This time of year, it's a little unfortunate that hurricane season comes when the rest of the country is still pretty active in the pool industry,
Yeah.
because I know that there are many people, and maybe in the far northeast there might be some companies that are kind of slowing down, and they might have an opportunity to reach out to some of the people in the industry in Florida, see if they need a hand after. The people in Florida are not only dealing with the pools after this horrible hurricane goes through, but they've got their own lives.
Yep.
And our friends through talking pools that we've got in Florida, I know they're concern for family and everything else. It's just a lot to go through. And if your own living room has a foot of water in it, well, it's kind of hard to be motivated to run out and take care of 100 of your pool customers whose pools have been flooded and messed up. So
Right.
it's our industry is neat in that we do help one another in many, many ways by sharing information or even getting in there elbow to elbow with them and helping where we can. You mentioned our sponsor, IPSA, and I know that IPSA has a number of ways that they help businesses when things are, you have certain things happen that someone isn't able to do, right? You've been involved in IPSA. Do you know
Yeah.
some of that kind of stuff that goes on?
When it Well, we have things like the Tech for Tech, and that's for people who are sick or injured and can't work for a certain amount of time. And you're in the chapter within a certain radius of a chosen spot, usually it's where they have their meetings. Then they divide up your route up to a certain number of pools. You know, enough to cover that you don't lose all your income, but also not too many where it's overwhelming the person to volunteer.
Yeah.
So those things are there. When there are these natural disasters in certain areas, a lot of the chapters will team up or within their chapter try to donate and figure out ways to help those other chapters in those affected areas, which has always been a great. Pretty much IPSA is about making the pool professional the best professional they can, and having that camaraderie amongst the members to help one another no matter where it is.
That's fantastic, and I applaud IPSA for all of those efforts. Things happen, right? You really, as much as you want to be prepared, you often are never as prepared as you would hope. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're injured or you're sick, having others to help keep your business afloat while you're recovering is a amazing thing. So beyond all of the other benefits that IPSA offers its members, I think that that one in itself, that layer of insurance that just being a member provides, I think is a wonderful thing.
I had to actually use it twice. Once when I
Really?
had my youngest son,
Okay.
when I had my maternity leave, and then once when I had to have emergency surgery.
Okay. Well,
And without it, I probably would have lost everything.
so your firsthand experience, right?
Yep.
So again, we're thrilled to have IPSA as a sponsor for Tuesdays with Kelli and Dan, and they've got a lot of great things to offer. If you're not familiar with them, look them up, find some people that are involved, ask some questions, and see how they can help you. That's wonderful stuff.
But thank you, everyone, for listening to Tuesdays with Kelli and Dan. Hope you enjoyed what we had to talk about today and got something from it. So please like us, follow us, download when you listen so we know you're listening. If you have anything you would like us to talk about, please let us know by emailing us at talkingpools@gmail.com. And we will talk to you again next week.
Thanks, everyone, and thanks again to IPSA as our sponsor. We appreciate your support and all that you do for the industry. And Kelli, I will talk to you again in another week.
Yeah. Have fun in Mexico.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.